So we've already looked a little bit at strings and printing strings and creating variables and sticking strings inside of them. And that's nice, but all of that is sort of one-sided right now, right? It's all something that you've predefined. What if you want the user to actually be able to input some sort of data and the program to do something with that? So we're going to do a very, very, very basic version. Let's go ahead and open the file I've been using. I should probably rename it. That's okay. We're going to do like Python ask user for inputs, and then we're going to have Python use that input, and then we'll have, actually that's all we'll have. This is actually pretty easy. If we do user name and we do inputs, and we're just going to do that for right now. And let's go ahead and run this. So here's my terminal. Let's make this bigger so we can see what's happening. And we're going to go to my desktop, and we're going to run, using Python 3, my hello world file that I need to rename and stop calling it the same thing. And now you can see a gray square. Notice the gray square is static. This is not the same as it was earlier. Something is different. And if I just type something in like gray square, and I press question mark, nothing happened, right? But notice the difference here. Before, the gray square was up here by itself, and now it's back here. Python has finished running, and it has exited, even though I forgot to tell it to exit. That's okay. Now let's actually make it do something. So I can also tell it to print, and I can tell it to print this variable that I've defined up here with the user input. So if I save this and I run it again, gray square, now it posted gray square. Repeat exactly what I said. So what's happened here is I have defined a variable. I've created this variable. The computer has put in its memory and its RAM a little bit of space to keep some data, and that data is whatever the user types in at that little gray square. And then I've told it to then print that data, so it's just repeating. Now that's not that useful right now because the user doesn't know what to input. I just see a gray square. But if I instead put in a string here, like what's your name, and I save it, now when I run it, we get the question, and I can type a name like Jeff, and now it says Jeff. And that's not very useful either, because I don't just want it to repeat. Instead, I want it to actually like say something. So in response, it could say hello, and if we save it and we run it, Jeff and hello Jeff. Now there's a couple other things we can do here. I don't really like how close this is to there, so I could add a space here. And maybe I want the computer to be a little bit more excited. So let's say that we also want it to post another string. Oops, there we go. With an exclamation point for extra excitement. So we've got the string, a comma to separate that from this variable that the user puts in, another comma to separate that from the string here. And if we save it and we run it, we've got the space there, and we type Jeff, and it says hello Jeff. And we've got the space here between that and the exclamation point. And we'll worry about that in a little bit. Now what I can also do if I want, instead of typing there, I could also add a /n here and save, and if you remember right, that does a new line. So now we're on a new line, and Jeff and hello Jeff. So as you can see, we have some options. If I want an indentation, so that way it's sort of like this repeating back and forth, I could add some spaces here and save it, run again. Now I've got it sort of here in the middle. I think that's too many spaces. Maybe I should have used maybe just 2. I think that would have been better. Maybe even 1. Anyways, you get the idea. So one other thing. Let me reopen this terminal. Go to my desktop again. Run my previous command. So there's an issue with this. It says what's your name and it repeats it right back, and of course your user could just type some random stuff in there and that's great. And just be aware of that. We're not going to really worry about that right now. I just want you to be aware that your user can always put in things other than what you're intending. And there are ways to fix that, there are ways to check on that, but we're not there yet. Just like there are ways to fix this little space that we'll talk about next.